What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton's season wasn't derailed by a crash, but by 8 seconds of telemetry data that the FIA dissected like a forensic investigation? What if the penalty that's about to ruin Ferrari's most important race of the year wasn't about what you saw on TV, but about what happened in a moment so brief that most fans didn't even notice it? And what if this entire controversy reveals something much darker about how the FIA is secretly changing the rules of engagement in Formula One? The shock didn't come when Lewis Hamilton crashed out at Zandvoort. According to multiple paddock sources, it came after, when the FIA struck with a decision that turned a disappointing weekend into a strategic nightmare. A 5-place grid penalty confirmed and enforced for Monza, Ferrari's most emotionally charged battleground. But this wasn't your typical racing infringement. This wasn't a case of a careless collision or a pit lane mistake. This was deeper, more precise, and far more damaging because the FIA's decision was rooted in data, in cold, indisputable telemetry that painted a picture no one could ignore. It all centered around a specific moment during the reconnaissance laps before the Dutch Grand Prix had officially started. Hamilton passed through a double yellow flag zone while marshals operated close to the circuit. It's a moment that typically gets little attention, lasting mere seconds. But the FIA had been paying very close attention, and what they found in the telemetry raised serious concerns. According to the stewards' official report, they pulled everything: throttle traces, brake pressures, GPS location, gear changes, delta time reductions, every parameter at their disposal. And the conclusion they drew was damning. Hamilton had not slowed down enough. He had lifted, yes. Braked earlier than usual, yes. But the reduction wasn't significant, not according to Article 2.5b of the International Sporting Code. The stewards' report wasn't vague or debatable. It was surgical. As documented in their official statement, the data showed that the driver had entered the double yellow sector approximately 20 kilometers per hour less than his speed at the same point in practice sessions. But here's the kicker. The stewards didn't consider that 20 kilometers per hour reduction enough to be considered significantly slowing down. Ferrari presented their defense, stating that Hamilton had no intention to violate any protocol. They argued that he had already planned to enter the pit lane, that the deceleration was controlled, that there was no visible risk to anyone on track. But the stewards weren't moved. They examined his data, compared it to earlier laps, isolated variables, and cross-analyzed it against sector times from other drivers. But here's where this story takes a turn that will make you question everything about FIA consistency. The result wasn't just a penalty. The stewards admitted they had initially considered a 10-place penalty. The only reason they went with 5 was because Hamilton had at least attempted to comply, even if it fell short of the threshold required. And this is where the inconsistency becomes absolutely mind-boggling. While Hamilton received a 5-place penalty for slowing down 20 kilometers per hour under double yellows, 4 other drivers were investigated for failing to adhere to maximum time limits during their reconnaissance laps. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, and Nico Hulkenberg were all found to have driven too slowly. But in each case, the stewards ruled they didn't do so in an unnecessary manner. The FIA's penalty spree at Zandvoort didn't stop there. Carlos Sainz received a 10-second penalty and 2 penalty points for his collision with Liam Lawson, despite Sainz's protests. As Sainz told media after the race, "I suffered an incident that cost me another 10 points in the championship when I was executing one of my best weekends of the year. I've already reviewed it myself and I've seen what I had to see." But the most revealing incident involved Charles Leclerc's aggressive overtake on George Russell. While it was investigated after the race, both drivers felt it was a racing incident requiring no further consequence. Even Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff stated, "I'm looking at this incident from the global picture. After the race, we don't want to have Charles having a grid penalty for Monza because of the way he lost this race with one of our cars." The timing of Hamilton's penalty creates a perfect storm of psychological warfare. This penalty cuts through all the progress Hamilton has been talking about, all the adaptation curves and learning processes. It doesn't care about context or how difficult the SF24 is to tame. The message from the FIA is crystal clear. No leeway, no exemptions, no grace period. Hamilton's challenge isn't just mechanical anymore. It's emotional, political, psychological. This penalty has created a test of character, not just talent. For a 7-time world champion who still feels like a stranger in his own car, this is about learning how to lead Ferrari under the most intense pressure. The data doesn't lie, but it also doesn't tell the complete story. Hamilton's radio silence after receiving the penalty speaks volumes. After the crash at Zandvoort, he gave a reserved interview. No excuses, no finger-pointing. He admitted it had been a painful outcome, especially after showing what he described as real steps forward earlier in the weekend. Behind closed doors, sources close to Ferrari admitted that the team had not expected such a meticulous response from the FIA. The level of detail in the stewards' decision stunned even senior engineers. It wasn't just a ruling, it was a case study. A blow-by-blow breakdown of why Hamilton's actions failed to meet the standards required. The ripple effects are undeniable. Ferrari, already under pressure after a turbulent season filled with technical misfires and inconsistent results, must enter Monza with compromised track position. Hamilton, who was already struggling to adapt to the SF24's unpredictable handling characteristics, especially under braking and corner entry, now faces the additional pressure of fighting through midfield traffic. This creates a fascinating paradox. If Hamilton delivers, if he claws his way up through the chaos and finds the rhythm Ferrari's been chasing all year, then Monza becomes more than just another Grand Prix. It becomes the scene of his rebirth in red, proof that even in the most turbulent seasons, Lewis Hamilton is still capable of magic. But if he doesn't, if the penalty becomes another chapter in Ferrari's season of missed opportunities, then we're witnessing something much more significant. The systematic dismantling of one of F1's greatest partnerships before it ever truly began. The crash, the penalty, the pressure, it's all building toward one pivotal moment at Monza. 5 places back, one iconic circuit, a team under pressure, and a legend with everything to prove. This isn't just about grid positions anymore. It's about pride, identity, and legacy. What happens next could define not just Hamilton's Ferrari chapter, but the entire future of this partnership that was supposed to rewrite F1 history.